I'm Billy Hallowell, host of CBN's new documentary investigating the supernatural miracles. Now, the interview that you're about to watch details an incredible miracle story, but I want to briefly talk about our film, which tells different stories that will deeply challenge you, inspire you, and get you thinking deeper about evidence for the supernatural. Before we air today's interview, please check out this 60-second trailer for investigating the supernatural miracles. You can head on over to cbn.com/supernatural to watch the film. Here's the trailer.
I got out of my patrol car and I slipped.
I went from having a promising career as a neuroscientist to having a medical death sentence.
I said there was nothing else that we could do. There was no heartbeat.
Time of death, 8:05.
Are miracles real? Do they happen today? Let's investigate.
A lot of skeptics will say, well, miracles are impossible. Why? Because they violate the laws of nature. You can't violate the laws of nature.
People would pray for me, and sometimes it felt like this power that just zapped me.
When I woke up, she says, "Can you do anything that you didn't do before?" I looked at my hand that was clutched. I said, "Hand, move."
He's dead. It's over. I said, shock him one more time.
Well, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. Let's look at the evidence.
And here is today's interview, which we hope will deeply inspire you. Aidan, appreciate you taking the time and coming on with us today. You have an incredible story, a crazy story of survival. The fact that you're even sitting here right now, I think, is miraculous. But let's sort of go back a couple of weeks. You were with a friend, a gun went off, you were shot. Take us through what happened.
Yeah, I went over to a friend's house to catch up. Hadn't seen him in about a year. I went over, there was guns out. I didn't feel comfortable myself. Probably would have never been there if there was. If I had known there was guns there. But I go in, he gives me a quick tour of his place. It's a new place. I wasn't even there for 5 minutes. I walk back in the kitchen and he's got the gun in his hand. I'm asking if the safety's on the gun. They kind of joke around with it, kind of saying I'm scared. And then I kind of back away a little bit, and he aims the gun at me and he pulls the trigger. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so the trigger is pulled. I know it's probably hard to think about what was going through your mind in those moments. You were obviously, you said you were nervous. You were sort of letting that be known. Do you remember what you were thinking in that specific moment when the gun deployed?
Oh my gosh, so many things. From am I gonna die? I need to see my family. Of course, the main thing was getting me somewhere that I can get taken care of. Just thinking, God, please don't let me die. It was insane.
So, and this was an accident, obviously. It sounds like this was an accident. Would that be a correct assumption?
Yes, he didn't have the intent in his head to kill me or shoot me. He didn't have the intent to shoot me.
So you end up going to the hospital. Now, the thing about this that is catching everybody's eye is you, I believe at Christmas time by your dad, were given this cross that you were wearing at the time. Now, this cross, anybody who's worn a necklaces move around, right? So the idea that this necklace would have been positioned in the exact place where the bullet hit shocked me, because the necklace essentially saved your life. Talk a little bit about that.
It's crazy to think about, truly, now that it's been 3 weeks, and just rethinking everything. The cross, I don't know exactly where it was on my chest. It must have been exactly where the bullet entered and ricocheted. Maybe not. Nobody really knows. But I believe it was more than just a piece of metal. I believe that I was protected. Truly.
Yeah, when you think about that, I saw some of the interviews that you've done on this talking about how you had believed in God before this. Talk a little bit about that belief. And then this event, I mean, you very literally could have been dead in that moment, and you survived this. How has that changed your perspective on God, on faith?
It's changed drastically. Before being shot, I was dealing with some personal things in life, just like what I want to do with my life, normal 20-year-old things, going to college. Do I want to do college? Do I not want to do college? What am I going to do? And, I started to pray about it, and I felt like nobody was listening. I felt like God wasn't listening to me. But that's kind of a whole nother story. And then, this happens, and I feel like he's definitely listening, protecting me. And I feel like that was almost his way of showing me, you have a purpose. You're meant to be here. And, yeah.
Yeah. When I hear stories like yours, I often think, gosh, what plan does God have for that person's life? Right. Because clearly, and the skeptics are going to say, oh, well, the cross just happened to be there. It's all by chance. But when you look at this, even the doctors, it sounds like, were pretty mesmerized by the medal. When they talked about the medal, and of course, I love what you said before, too. It's more than just the medal. You feel like God protected you, but that this cross may have been used as sort of a shield to stop the bullet from going directly into the cavity around your lungs or even hitting your heart. When you reflect on that word miracle, would you say you believe this is 100% a miracle?
This is 100% a miracle. The doctors at HCA, they said it's a miracle that this didn't do what it should have done. My doctor, Tanko, at my ortho surgeon, he said he calls me his miracle patient. He's a believer. He's a firm believer. And he says that, I was definitely protected, being watched over.
How will this change? You talked about your life, before. Obviously, I assume, you grew up in a Christian home, or you had belief in God in some way. You now have this happen. You feel that there's this purpose. How will that change how you live your life moving forward?
Ooh, that's a good question. God will definitely be a big part of my life moving forward. And I want to say that he already was, but as far as the continuous, praying and actually, walking in that Christian life, that Christian-centered life is going to be a little bit more serious in a way. Yeah. That's a good question.
Well, how has your family reacted to this? Just the people closest to you watching this happen, knowing the details, knowing how close you came very literally to dying.
Oh, it's been a very emotional thing that's happened. My father's been really, really going through it emotionally, but also very thankful. Everybody's so thankful and grateful that God stepped in and did what he does. Because honestly, I shouldn't, I don't want to say I shouldn't be here right now talking to you, but I believe that without God, I wouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so, and we're not putting the power in that medal and that cross. I do want to talk about it, though, because it is interesting. You got that for Christmas, right, from your dad? Is that correct, the cross?
Yep.
So you think about, and I don't know from your dad's perspective, right? Had he not bought you that cross, I mean, God could have protected you in any other way he chose, right? But, he buys you this gift. You're choosing to wear it. It becomes part of the thing, according to the doctors, that obviously, and it looks like the cross is split in half, correct? Like the bullet actually split it in half?
Yeah, actually, it was all the way together. It was still together until I got to the trauma center, and they took it off of me. It was still together, and then it finally fell apart.
Wow. So, I mean, Has there been any conversation about that? You know, just like your dad's thoughts on, hey, if I hadn't bought that, I mean, if you hadn't gotten this gift at Christmas and you weren't wearing it, you know, I don't know. It's an interesting detail to me in this story.
Yeah, he's definitely thought about that. It's funny because that is the only gift that I asked for was the cross necklace. And I ended up getting it, thankfully. And that replays in his head a lot too, you know, and he's so happy that he got that gift and he's grateful too.
What has your recovery been like? I know that obviously it's not, I'm sure there's pain. It's not a quick, easy thing, even though, you know, it wasn't deadly, thankfully, but what has that been like for you physically?
It's been a challenge physically, mentally too. You know, because I'm not normally like this. I'm usually in the gym every single day, you know, living a normal life. But, you know, I'm going to be in this fracture cast for quite a while. And the recovery is going to be it's going to be a climb. It's going to be a long road. And we're not even sure if surgery is off the table yet. We're hoping that it is, and it's looking optimistic that I won't have surgery, but we're not completely sure yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's something people can pray. If people are watching this, listening to this, they can pray for you on that. And, you know, you've chosen to speak out and share your story too. What has motivated that? Because it's not always easy, you know, for anybody to go out and talk to the media, but you've been willing to do that. Why have you been so willing?
It's a good question. I just, I think it's a miraculous story. And I think, you know, God's very powerful, and I think it's a story that needs to be heard. There's a lot of people struggling out there, and this can inspire a lot of people to just, you know, if something happens to you, just keep going, you know, don't stop, keep praying, believe in the power of prayer and the power of God.
You know, final question for you, because when something like this happens, whether it's intentional or not, there's an element of forgiveness that has to come into play, because you just mentioned you're in the gym every day. You like to work out, you know, your life has been changed, at least for the time, as you deal with this. And it was a traumatic thing to go through. How have you dealt with the forgiveness element of this situation?
That's something that comes, I wouldn't say easy to me, but I'm not a hateful person at all. Actually, I still care for the person who shot me. We're not in contact or anything, but, you know, I wish him the best truly, and I pray for him. You know, I pray that he's doing well mentally, because that's not easy for him at all either. And it could have been a lot worse for him as well. And it could have been a lot worse for me too. So I'm thankful that it wasn't.
Well, I am thankful as well, Aidan, and I appreciate you taking the time, sharing with us. And as the story develops, new pieces of the puzzle come out, would love to have you back to share more. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.